I'm with Sarabjit Singh, the former Director General of Police of Punjab, but Mr. Singh is no ordinary DGP. He was the senior cop or the top cop of Punjab in December 1999 when an Indian Airlines plane was hijacked from Kathmandu to Kandahar, and we all know that it stopped in Amritsar for a few minutes, but we'll get to that. And the reason that I'm talking to Mr. Singh today is because of the huge controversy over a Netflix series, a web series called the IC814, the Kandahar hijack. And Mr. Singh, he was in the hot spot at the time. But first of all, let me welcome him to the Tribune. Mr. Singh, welcome. I do want to say that this film, this Netflix series that has been in the news and the subject of some controversy, and the reason you're here is because you were the DGP at the time when this hijacked plane was in Amritsar at Amritsar airport. So tell me what you remember about it.
I learnt about the hijack on the television. I was at home, switched on the TV.
This was on the 24th of December, on Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve.
Okay.
Switched on the TV in the evening, and I find the plane is hijacked from Kathmandu. Somehow something clicked in my brain, and I called up the IG border in Amritsar, and I said, send 2 companies of commandos to the airport.
So you were in Chandigarh, but you called your colleague in Amritsar?
In Amritsar.
Okay.
And I asked him to send 2 companies of commandos to the airport. Fortunately, on that day, 2 companies of commandos were stationed in Amritsar for some other duties. So they were posted. This is just in anticipation in case the plane landed. One had no idea, but
sure.
And lo and behold, the plane did land.
So your instinct was right?
It was.
Okay.
And our normal conditioning for hijacks had been that they would stop and then they would threaten and then they would talk. It used to be a long affair. All earlier hijacks had been long affairs. This is the first hijack which was this short.
But you've been involved in other hijacks?
No, I was in the force when it happened. And Mr. KPS Gill handled a hijack in Amritsar. I was very much in the Punjab police. So one has institutional knowledge of what happened.
That was in the 80s?
80s, yes.
Yeah, 82 I think.
That's right. So one anticipated negotiations and psychological experts to decipher these people, and in the meantime the NSG comes and does the job. The NSG would take about 45 minutes to 1 hour to fly from Delhi to Amritsar, plus whatever time they take in Delhi.
Right.
And I was told that in Amritsar they would take about another 1 hour to be ready for action.
So this conversation is already taking place?
No, the minute I found out that it has landed, I was online with Delhi.
With who?
With Mr. Shyamal Datta, the then Director IB, and my other batchmate, Mr. A.S. Dulat, was also present there. They were consulting each other and the others, and Mr. Datta was the spokesperson to talk to me. So I was talking to him all the time. So
this is when they were part of the crisis management group?
I think there's no such thing as being part. When something happens, you're already designated, and you come and get together.
Sure.
In the meantime, fortunately, the DIG border, Jasminder Singh, he had already reached the air traffic control. He was in the ATC, and he was the one who was talking to Captain Devi Sharan. They had patched Devi Sharan's calls onto a microphone, a big loudspeaker inside the ATC. So whenever I talked to Jasminder, I could hear Devi Sharan in the background. So my first reaction before I talked to Delhi was when they told me the plane has landed, I told the DIG, I said, don't refuel. His name was Jasminder. So I told Jasminder, I said, don't refuel. And Devi Sharan was stressing, please give us fuel, please give us fuel. At a certain, in the meantime, Delhi is telling me to do something. I said, look, I have 2 companies out there. They are armed with automatic weapons, AK-47s, but we don't have any equipment specific to hijacking. We can't even have a ladder to reach. We'll have to roll a ladder to go reach the plane. And shooting will take place. If shooting takes place, then I can't tell you how many will die, how many will not die.
You told Shyamal Datta?
I told. I said, we can't see inside the plane. We have no idea. What they do is separate. Even our firing will probably kill some people. And I can't tell you how many. So he says, can't you puncture the aircraft? I had a laugh and I told him, I said, this one is not a scooter tire. This is a big, huge wheel with 4 to 8 tires, all tubeless. Even a bullet through will not do anything to it.
But did you say this angrily, or
jokingly?
Or were you as calm and composed as you are right now?
Jokingly.
Okay.
But then I knew it's a serious matter, so I put his leg on this. In the meantime, Jasminder was able to deny the fuel because the Bowser also was not there. The Bowser had gone somewhere else. These people had gone for a meal or something. But he called for the Bowser, and when the Bowser came back, without telling me, he had stationed 2 guys on the Bowser to disable the wheels. My fear was that any sort of action, disabling or otherwise, would trigger a reaction by the hijackers inside the plane, where we were not able to see. While this was on, Devi Sharan was pleading, sir, fuel de dijiye, please, fuel de dijiye. He said, maar diya ek aadmi.
Rupin Katyal.
Later I found out. So Jasminder says, sir, they've killed a person. I said, have they thrown a body outside? No. I said, hang on then. I'm not going to believe it till a body is thrown out.
Meanwhile, the plane is still...
Plane was moving from place to place.
From place to place?
On the runway. It was shifting locations.
No, but was it going forward and backward, or...
That's right, forward, turning back again. It couldn't go sideways on the runway.
Obviously, because it's not large enough.
Only up and down. But it was changing locations.
What do you think he was trying to do, Devi Sharan, the captain?
No, he was being asked to do it.
I see.
He was being forced to do it. It made no sense for him to do it. He was being forced so that any action by commandos, others would be visible to the pilots, to the hijackers.
So the plane was not stationary on the runway?
No, it kept moving from time to time.
And because the plane was in Amritsar, on the Amritsar airport tarmac for 47 minutes, right?
That's right.
So it didn't really,
It was not stuck in one place for 47 minutes.
Right.
While all this is on, Delhi was insisting, and I told them, I said, look, hang on for the NSG. I said, okay, how much time? They said, chalenge means 1 hour. And then they'll take another 1 hour to get ready for action. I said, okay, we'll hang on. We'll deny them fuel and we'll see what can happen. We were told that there's only 7 minutes or 9 minutes of fuel left.
That's what Devi Sharan was saying?
Yes.
And you heard him on this ATC loudspeaker?
I heard him on this loudspeaker. But let me digress. I would give full marks to Devi Sharan for courage and coolness. He maintained his cool. He put on an image of being scared, but I could see that the man was in control of whatever he's trying to do. And then finally, superb flying. You do not take off an aircraft from the middle of the runway. All aircraft, big or small, take off from one end. This is a big aircraft. He was made to take off from the middle, and he still managed to clear the fence in the end, which is good flying, very good flying.
How do you know that?
I'm a pilot myself.
You've flown a plane?
I have a private pilot's license.
So from one pilot to another. So that was good thinking on Devi Sharan's part?
Good thinking, very good thinking.
So here he was on the tarmac, piloting this aircraft, this large plane, and going up and down, like you said, trying to turning around and coming back. But that would be using up more fuel. So what do you think was happening?
He still knew he had enough fuel for Lahore.
How much fuel do you need for Lahore, from Amritsar to Lahore?
I don't know.
But approximately, would you need
Seeing the size of the plane, I don't know how much it gathers in a minute.
Right.
But he said about 7 to 9 minutes of fuel.
Yeah.
And must have been a bit more.
Because finally, when he takes off, and then I think the story is that he tells the hijackers that I have only 9 minutes left and I have to land in Lahore. Although the plane is turned towards Kabul, and then he tells the hijackers, and that's evidently the story. Right?
This is indirect information that I had, that Lahore switched off the lights. They didn't let him land. Then he prepared to land on the road. When they found he was going to land on the road, they switched on the lights.
He would have landed on the road in Lahore?
He could have, because
On the Mall Road in Lahore?
the road built by Nawaz Sharif from Lahore to, I think, Islamabad is supposed to be broad enough for a plane.
Yeah, it is a beautiful road. I've been on it many times. So what happens? Let's come back to Amritsar Airport. So then what do you tell Devi Sharan, the captain?
No, I am talking to Jasminder only.
Okay, you're only talking to Jasminder. What do you tell Jasminder?
I said, don't let them go. But don't give them fuel. If no fuel, they won't go. I mean,
Because they'll run out of fuel.
I could never imagine the chap with 9 minutes of fuel going to take off from there. I was working on this concept that no fuel, no takeoff. Otherwise, any approach to the plane would have triggered a reaction inside the plane. And these people didn't even let the Bowser come close. When the Bowser was coming, they took off.
So a Bowser is this large piece of equipment which carries fuel. It's like a tanker.
For the plane, yeah.
It's a tanker.
It's the tanker for the plane, designed for the planes.
So you were sending the Bowser, or Jasminder was sending
Jasminder on his own sent it with 2 people to disable.
But it did not come anywhere close to the aircraft?
It did not reach the aircraft, no. They took off before that. They saw these 2 guys.
Oh, they did see them?
They did see.
They're smart, these hijackers.
Very smart.
And obviously trained.
They seem to have been very well trained. And also they were quite, if you look at it, they were quite restrained in their dealing with their passengers. Rupan Katyal was specific killing designed to scare the others, that's all.
Actually, he was knifed soon after the plane takes off from Kathmandu. So it was before it landed in Amritsar. And he was knifed in the throat, and then he died subsequently.
He died in Dubai, I think, or they took...
Something like that. Yeah, the body, by then he was dead. But, you know, the accusation against you, 25 years later, Mr. Singh, may I add, and we will talk about this IC814 film series. It's a film. It's creative fiction, if you like, by a filmmaker called Anubhav Sinha. We all know that by now. But the accusation against you 25 years later is that you did not show the presence of mind and keep that aircraft on the ground.
I had warned Delhi that I have people on the ground ready and waiting, and if we take action, there's going to be shooting. People will die. Now, as per our protocol, the Central Crisis Management Group handles hijacks. Even the state also has the CMG, but that is not allowed to handle the hijack. The Central CMG handles. And if they told me, don't, so I said, okay.
Don't what?
Don't shoot.
You were prepared to shoot?
I would have had to shoot. There were 3 armed hijackers inside the plane, 3 or more, I'm not sure.
5.
5.
No,
but,
yeah.
Okay. But to take any action, either I disable the plane's wheels. For that I was very clear that any action taken by me would invite a reaction inside and more people would die. How many I couldn't say. I didn't know the weaponry they had. They used a knife on Katyal, maybe just to show. But we had no idea what they'd used. As far as we are concerned, they had firearms.
Right.
Right? And I knew that casualties would take place, whether I succeed in getting these guys or not. And I was very clear in my mind that the plane is not going to take off. That takeoff was weird. No pilot in his sensible mind would take off like this.
Why? Because he had 9 minutes only of fuel left?
9 minutes not enough to take off and land in another airfield. You need reserve fuel even in normal circumstances before landing. Nobody lands with an empty tank.
So the pilot you're giving full credit to the pilot for doing what he did. But let's talk about what happened between you and Delhi. You are telling Shyamal Datta that I don't know what these guys have, whether they have firearms or not inside the plane. What does he tell you?
No, I didn't say I don't know they have firearms. I presumed they have firearms.
Okay. And that's what you tell Shyamal Datta?
Yes.
That I'm presuming that they have something.
Firearms, and if I shoot, they shoot. They also kill the passengers, I also kill them and all the passengers, because I had no clear visibility towards the cockpit. All that is visible to Jasminder from the ATC Amritsar was the cockpit with Devi Sharan there. And now and then somebody coming and going back.
So what did you tell Shyamal?
I said, if you guys are ready, I'll take action. We start. Don't.
Why?
Disable kar do, ye kar lo, lekin don't move in.
Don't move in?
and don't move with your chaps.
Why not?
These
Why do you
two
think he said
commanders.
that?
Casualties. And obviously Shamal was being ordered by somebody else
To say what?
to, I don't know to say what, but most certainly to ensure that no firing takes place.
So that people are not, even incidentally killed.
Killed, yes.
So there was that fear in Shamal Datta that if the shooting had begun, then people would have been killed.
I told him गोली चलेगी लोग मरेंगे नहीं यार अभी गोली मत चलाओ किसी और तरीके से रोको पंचर करो.
तो previous hijacking में गोली चली थी कि नहीं चली थी?
Previous hijacking were long. The hijackers were involved in conversation, and the plane was circled by the police or other agencies when needed. And they were worn down, tired, hungry.
In retrospect, Mr. Singh, this is a story that's 25 years old. Do you think about it sometimes?
I do think about it, and I think I do the same thing.
Which is that
I would not risk the passengers' lives.
you would not shoot,
No.
but you would let the hijackers get away with it then.
I would not shoot blind.
What would you do?
Like I said, if it is a long thing, then we would have had time to plan.
But you didn't have a long thing. You had 47 minutes.
That's
and
it.
you didn't know how much, even at that time, you didn't know whether it was 47 or not.
I didn't know how long it was going to last.
Exactly. But you would not shoot.
I would not shoot at that point of time. I was prepared for a long haul. At some point of time, we might have had snipers to take aim at the hijackers inside. But at this point of time, we didn't have time for snipers. There was no time for setting our sights.
But where were your commandos? I know you said that the NSG takes an hour
At the
to fly
airport.
from. They were at the airport.
My commanders at the airport.
But they could not storm the
Two
aircraft.
companies of Punjab police commanders were at the airport, but they had no equipment because for storming an aircraft, the hijackers have these telescopic ladders which go up. They go up on the ladder, then they have implosion grenades which they plant on the doors. The grenade blasts the door outwards. Then the hijackers enter the commandos enter, and they use stun grenades to stun the people inside. They take action. Equipment is needed. You just can't walk in with your AK-47 and that's it.
But they didn't have the equipment.
No, we didn't have it all.
Why not?
It was not part of the protocol. No state had it.
But the NSG guys in Delhi had it.
NSG in Delhi had. And after this is over, I asked the Home Secretary, I said, why don't you train some of our people and let us have our own companies at the airport. And after that, I believe the then Director NSG told the Home Secretary, does DG Punjab want to create his own NSG? So, inter-turf rivalry.
So when you tell Shamal Datta that this is what's going on and he says, Abhi goli mat chalao. I'm sure you and Shamal Datta, you said he was your batchmate, you guys are batchmates and I assume you're friends. You must have talked about this later, didn't you? Haven't you?
We did talk later, yes.
So what do you think happened? What do you think happened in that room?
See, the news that is coming out later on about somebody else is that we had no information with us at that point of time. And even subsequently, Shamal never, he is a good spy master. He never disclosed if there was any reason behind this.
Behind goli mat chalao?
Yeah, people say there was a raw officer there or somebody else was there, and that is why this didn't happen. We were not told this at all. No way.
That there was an RNAW officer inside the aircraft?
That's what comes out in the news.
Well, there were lots of people inside that aircraft.
And there may have been somebody vital, crucial. We were not told. For us, it was just the aircraft with the passengers. In fact, we didn't have the manifest also.
But can you confirm now that there was an RNAW officer inside?
I can't.
He was supposed to be the man from the Kathmandu
That's what they say.
desk.
I have no subsequent information also.
I can give you the name of the gentleman actually, but I won't. Okay, that's not the point. Shamal Datta tells you goli mat chalao. Why do you think he's telling you that? Is it because he's getting political directions not to do that?
I would put it at any prudent thinking to avoid casualties.
What does Mr. Dullat say?
Dullat never talked to me. He was there, I knew he was there.
But he didn't talk to you?
He didn't talk to me.
What does he say later?
He did say later that "Tu kuch kar lena siga, you should have disabled the plane" or some such thing. I said, look, I was under instructions from the CMG and I wanted to avoid casualties of my own as well as under their instructions. So I was not going to do this. Then he said something and I said, look, I'm no KPS Gill. He could afford to take a risk and defy them. I am bound by the orders of the CMG. I would not do it.
This is a reference to KPS Gill with Operation Black Thunder in 1988.
That's right.
When he went into the Harmandir Sahib allegedly in defiance of Delhi's orders,
right,
not to go in. But that's because there were 40 terrorists holed up inside the Darbar Sahib, right?
And
defiling the most secret
he had
seat of the Sikhs.
enough reasons and enough cover, enough psychological and moral cover to do what he did.
It also went on for 3 or 4 days.
It did.
Prior to the operation.
It did.
You didn't have that time.
I had, you know how much time I had.
47 minutes.
That's it.
But do you think that...
And I did not even know that the plane is going to land there.
But then it landed and you were in earshot of Jasminder telling you what was going on. Yes. But the hijackers never spoke.
I did not hear any hijacker's voice.
It was only Devi Sharan. What does Jasminder say? Did the hijackers ever say something?
No, he only was talking to Devi Sharan. He told me that he's in touch with Devi Sharan.
Now tell me, why do you think this film series, after all it's only a film, who cares? It's also 25 years old. Why has it suddenly become this big controversy?
Your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea.
Why do you think? You think that we are still insecure, we are still reeling from the effects of that trauma?
I don't know why, because till then there was an impression that the government does nothing, but then in subsequent cases the government of the day has shown some nerve and they have done a few things. So that feeling of insecurity should not be there. I really can't say why, because I would have thought that this is stale news by now. It has no interest for anybody.
But it has evoked this crazy reaction in the people.
It has.
And there is, reports are that when the Netflix India head, Monica Shergill is her name, when she was summoned by INB ministry officials, and allegedly she was told that one of the reasons why they didn't like what was being portrayed in the movie was, or in the series, was that it made the Indian interlocutors who ultimately negotiated with the hijackers, they made them look weak.
I have no idea, because the fact is that by then they were weak. If your plane has left your territory and you're going somewhere else to negotiate, obviously you're on weaker ground.
So that's the point. It made Indians and the Indian authorities look weak.
It did, yes. And the pressure filed by the families was visible on TV those days, which was quite justified on their part, but the pressure showed on the government of the day.
Do you think that the government capitulated and should not have allowed this pressure to build on them?
I have had the experience of Dullah telling me about Farooq Abdullah's reaction. He was adamant at not releasing these guys.
Farooq. Okay.
He said, "Inko chodoge, you will not just regret, but you will pay in many more lives for their release."
Do you think Farooq was right?
He was right. The organizations to which these guys belonged have had so many more incidents after that.
Well, Masood Azhar went back to Pakistan and created the Jaish-e-Mohammed.
There you are. And what the Jaish has done, you know.
So what do you think then, Mr. Singh? You think that you should not have stormed the aircraft, you should have let people die, that you could have taken the chance, the risk?
Jyoti, the fact is that firstly, there wasn't enough time to really make up my mind, in the sense that if there had been a longer time, I may have weighed the consequences. But right then, it was clear to me that firing will be casualties, and casualties will be unknown. One can't decide how many are going to die. And our casualties are minor. Punjab police was used to
Casualties.
anti-terrorist operations and casualties. We are not bothered about that. But casualties on the opposite side of the passengers, we are worried about.
It showed India up as a weak state.
You tell me which state has taken action and got their own people killed in such a situation.
The Israelis?
They have not got their people killed. They have done it with time, with planning, and they have succeeded without getting the people killed, except the odd guy here. Israelis have never had a plane full of passengers butchered by their own fire.
Still showed up India as a weak state. For 1 week, you let the plane go in Amritsar.
I did.
And you don't regret that decision?
I do not.
Why not?
Like I said, I'm repeating myself. I was not ready to kill our own people, the passengers inside the plane.
So under the circumstances, you did the best thing you thought you could.
That's what I think.
And nobody said anything to you later?
No. I had one telephone call with my Chief Minister. Let me also clarify that. The impression given is that Mr. Badal told me not to.
Parkar Singh Badal?
Yes.
Told you what?
The impression given is that he told me not to take any action. Mr. Badal and I talked on the phone and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I've got people on the ground. We will see what can be done and we'll negotiate, we'll try and stop the plane." He just said one thing, "Sir Sahab, please be careful. You don't kill innocent passengers. There should not be bloodshed."
Now, Mr. Singh, you're a cop. You've been a cop all your life. You've seen people die, innocent people die. It's not their fault when they get caught in the line of fire, right? You've been through the worst years of terrorism in Punjab. And then you were confronted with this situation.
Yes. And during the worst years of terrorism, I have also been ambushed once. I've been through fire. I've been fired at by 3 AK-47s on me. But that is different. On me, it's okay. It's part of my job. But when it comes to firing on an object which has innocents inside and where they are most likely to get killed by my firing, I avoid it.
Of course you do. So when you weigh the consequences, I mean, it's impossible, and I'm sorry to ask you these questions 25 years later, but I've always wondered. I was in Delhi as a reporter when this hijacking took place from Christmas Eve to New Year's Eve, and the whole nation was watching it, right? But you always wonder whether you made the right decision when you balance things.
I have never wondered on this. Given the time span, number one, and then given the possible consequences in that time span, I have never wondered.
So the lives of 300 people, 300 passengers, was worth letting 5 hijackers hijack a plane, letting 3 terrorists loose, taken out from the jails of Punjab and Jammu and Kashmir, let them go.
At that point of time, it was only 5 hijackers, and one didn't know what was the level of their terrorist affiliation. The 3 other people, or the 76 or others who were demanded, came later. That information was not with me at that time.
Yeah, that came later. It came in Kandahar.
Yes.
However, you're right. It happened in sequence. You were not to be held accountable. The only reason you're here is because you were there on the spot. And Jasminder, your younger colleague.
I do wish somebody would interview Jasminder. He was a man in the ATC. He saw much more than me directly. I'm surprised no one, including the producers, have bothered to interview Jasminder. And the producers have not even contacted me.
Well, that's why we're here talking to you, and hopefully we'll speak to Jasminder soon. But I just have a few more questions for you. And my question to you is, and I just come back to that, Atal Bihari Vajpayee as Prime Minister, relatives of these 300 passengers are on the streets. Now, do you think that the government capitulated and showed that it was a weak government?
I don't know what is weak and strong about a government. If a government is able to get its people out from there alive.
At what cost?
The cost came later.
You knew that there would be a cost to pay. When those 3 terrorists, including Masood Azhar, who then became the founder of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, was sitting in the same plane that Jaswant Singh took. He took them with him, and God knows whether there was cash, that's not the point. You released 3 terrorists. That was the cost.
The cost must have been, I'm sure it was balanced at the level of the Prime Minister, whether to release or whether to face this consequence. And I'm sure that he must have also thought that we can face these guys afterwards also, no problem, as long as the people are out.
You released 3 terrorists. The Prime Minister of India gave the permission, the orders to release 3 terrorists.
To get 300 people back.
To get 300 people back. You think that was the right decision?
I'm no one to comment on that.
I'm asking you as a citizen.
I think it was.
As a cop.
It was.
The right decision.
We had no leverage to take any action in Kandahar.
How do you mean?
We didn't have our forces there. We could not use our NSC or army or any other equipment out there. So
you were going to mount an operation. That's what the report said. That's what the movie says.
In
Kandahar, yes.
That's news to me.
Well, that's what the movie also says, that there was some talk of your people on the ground from the RNAW, the IB, the Intelligence Bureau, and other Indian officials on the ground who wanted to talk to the Taliban authorities, then Muttawakil, the Deputy Foreign Minister, if you remember,
yes,
of the Taliban, and wanted to mount an operation.
And what was the Taliban's reaction?
Not very positive.
There you are.
So therefore, what?
It was hostile country area for us.
Absolutely. This was the Taliban. It was not a normal country.
That's it.
So you're saying that the cost was worth it?
I think it is worth it.
And what are the lessons? Let me ask you the last couple of questions. What are the lessons do you think we've learned from this hijacking?
The lessons have not been learnt even now. Airports are still not secure. Airports do not have enough specialized forces to react in such a situation. You have your normal CISF guarding the airport, that's it.
Yeah, isn't that enough?
That's enough for guarding the airport, not enough for launching an operation. I still go back to the time when I asked the Home Ministry and then the NSC to train my chaps.
After the hijacking?
After the hijacking. If there can be enough people trained in all the state police forces and equipped wherever there's an airport, then there'd be a slightly better chance. Slightly better, but there'd be a chance. Whatever the speed, the NSC takes time. Obviously it takes time. You can't have people sitting like this with their weapons in the aircraft at all times.
Which is what you tried to do for a short while after that with flight marshals, if you remember.
Yes, so you could make out the guy who was the flight marshal.
Yeah, exactly. But when you wrote your report, there were no questions asked.
No questions asked. I have not been questioned about this hijacking officially, either by the state government or by the centre.
Not from the Prime Minister, not from the then National Security Advisor Brajesh Mishra.
No level.
Not from the Chief Minister here.
No, at no level.
Everybody took you at your word, accepted what you did.
They didn't tell me I did right, but that's it. They kept quiet. That's it. They didn't tell me I was wrong.
You were not showered with any accolades.
No, certainly not. I didn't expect it.
And that's understandable.
Yes.
Mr. Sarabjit Singh, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
You've
you.
been very frank and honest.
Thank you.
And I do hope that you will come back to the Tribune. And on this note, I also want to say that I think that we will interview Jaswinder, your younger colleague at the time at the ATC. But thank you again. Thank you all for watching this interview with Mr. Sarabjit Singh, former DGP Punjab. On this note, I'd also like to ask you to comment on our video shows. This is the Tribune interview. I'm Jyoti Malhotra from the Tribune. Thank you so much for watching.